give us an idea of how big this fine is and how much it could potentially hurt Donald Trump's organisation.
Well, good morning. And to journalists, broadcasters like you and I who didn't necessarily choose this field because of the money involved, you hear that idea of $1.61 million and you go, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But we're talking about the Trump organization that currently is worth about an estimated $450 million. That's equivalent to about $25, I think, to Donald Trump. He probably spends more at McDonald's throughout there if you looked at his budget. So while it is the maximum fine allowed by the state, the reality of it is this is not going to be much of a drop in the bucket for the Trump organization, especially for 17 felony crimes. And let me just say this, whether you're the former president or you are a businessman or a businesswoman, if you commit a crime, if you try to commit tax fraud by your company, you should be held accountable towards the law. And there is no doubt if these were actual crimes committed, which it looks according to this judge that it is, absolutely hold those accountable, and that would be the CFO of the Trump organization. But here, I think, is where you're getting this idea. It's a witch hunt. You have a DA in New York State. You have a DA, a Manhattan DA, the one that actually won this case, that campaigned for office saying that they were 100% going to go after, at that time, President Donald Trump. That is what they campaigned on. That was their whole campaign. And because of the liberal state that New York is, they got elected for it. So if that makes it look a little bit more suspicious and what gives a little bit more gravitas to this idea that this was targeted at the Trump organization and this is targeted to go through. And even though Donald Trump was named multiple times in the cases, he himself was never actually cited, sourced, or actually brought up for conviction himself, which shows that while their goal is to put him in handcuffs, their ultimate goal, they didn't win with it this time.
So Trump says it's a witch hunt. He says it's targeted. What kind of impact will this have, if any, on Trump running in 2024?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because from day one of Trump running for office, we knew that the liberal government of New York City and New York were going to go after him. So it's going to have very little effect, I believe, especially with his base, because once again, if it almost vindicates him, because if there was anything wrong there, it would have come out. And yet it hasn't. And time again, whether you're talking about the DA in Manhattan, New York, or New York State, they're trying, or even the federal government at this point, they're trying to get him up for something. And once again, just like when he released his tax records after being forced to do so, there's nothing there that they can convict him of. So this will have very little impact. If not, it will once again take that air out of the balloon, because once you bring the truth to light, there's nothing for them to debate.
While we've got you here, Scottie, I also wanted to get your reaction to, or just tell us a little bit more then about these classified files that have been recovered from President Biden's former office, and some reportedly include some material marked as top secret. This is politically embarrassing for him, given the criticism he aimed at Donald Trump over after his home was raided.
Oh, just like Justin Timberlake says, what goes around comes around, and he's definitely come around. I mean, Hunter Biden really should have taken his dad's advice and cleaned out the garage at some point. But come on now, I think anybody with half a political brain that's watched what's going on over in the United States for the last 10 years knew about Hillary Clinton, all the information she kept on her private servers at home. There's no mistaking that he had private documents from his vice presidency, and it was probably more common knowledge, especially amongst the circles. The question I have to look at is, why is this coming out now? Why all of a sudden are there all of these things, whether you're talking about, and I find it interesting, a lot of these materials are saying is information about Ukraine, about some of those dealings between the Biden family and Ukraine, is the private documents that they're finding, and the timing of it. So is it because it's not necessarily the Republicans taking control of the House and that investigation is going to start, but why does it seem like these leaks are showing up in normally very mainstream media, Democrat type newspapers and news organizations? Is it the Democrats trying to say, guess what, Joe, we think you need to retire. Stop this idea of running in 2024. We've got two great people here in the United States, Gavin Newsom and Hakeem Jeffries. They might be great presidential candidates. It's time for you to step aside.